do you feel like working with these IPs, how is that different than working with your creator-owned stuff? Because you do have more parameters, obviously, with an
Sure.
IP. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, with I always say with IP, like you open the hood and you look under the hood and you go, what makes this thing work?
Mm.
Why do people like it? And what can I add to that without it becoming about me?
Mhm.
Without me imposing myself on it too much. Uh, Obviously, with a creator-owned thing, it's blue sky. You can tell whatever story you want. And the thing is, like, I'm a professional writer at heart, and there's a part of me, even when I'm working on original material, my God, I love a prompt. I love a suggestion. I love when someone comes to me. I've done a bunch of short stories for anthologies that were all original. Well, one of them was Sherlock Holmes, but most of it has been my own stories. And even just having the like, I'm writing something right now, which is a 8 or 10 page horror story set in LA. And even just the like, it has to be a horror story set in LA. Like that's a direction.
Yeah.
What have I got to say about Los Angeles? What
Mhm.
is what what says horror in Los Angeles to me personally? And
Mhm.
that's a huge help beyond, Two-Fisted Fairy Tales is something that's been in my head since I was a little kid. Like it's
Mhm.
literally been there. And I've always wanted to do something with it. And the freedom of I can do whatever I want with it is fantastic. And it has mutated a few times as I turned it into a comic book, frankly. With IP, it's more, what have I got to say about this? Do I have anything to say about this? Last year, I think it was last year, I was hired to do some short story writing for the Planet of the Apes role-playing game. And I was like, oh my God, I hope they let me do what I want to do because I have thoughts. I have loved those for the first of group of those movies since I was a little kid. And I am, as a writer, probably one of my biggest influences is Rod Serling, who wrote the
Mhm.
first Planet of the Apes. And I have always been fascinated by the main character, by Colonel Taylor, because first movie has a point, and it's not just the satire of human culture through the lens of apes.
Mhm.
Rod Serling being Rod Serling starts the movie with Colonel George Taylor before he meets his first ape saying, there's got to be something in the universe better than man. And that's what the movie's about. No, no, the minute something evolves a trigger finger,
Mhm.
it all goes the same ugly, horrible, oppressive, brutal direction. They
Yeah.
learn they learn nothing from the atomic wasteland they're living on.
Right.
That's fascinating. And his character and how his character was written was fascinating. So, for example, they asked me to pitch something, and I said the first thing I want to write is a memos between the head of the space program and the mission psychologist saying, why are you sending this nihilist who hates humanity out to start a human colony on another world? And the head
Mhm.
of the program says, you must understand, Colonel Taylor. He hates humanity because he's disappointed in us.
Mhm.
He thinks we can do better.
Mhm.
Who better to start a human colony than the
Right.
guy who thinks life on Earth is worthless because we screwed up? That's a guy who's actually an idealist. He
Mhm.
seems like a cynical, angry nihilist to you, but it's because he finds this all terribly disappointing. That was a thing I've wanted to say about that character since I
Mhm.
was maybe 8 years old, because I found it to be a compelling main character.
Sure.
So I wrote it. I had the opportunity to go, here's what I think about this character. Here's a thing that I have to say about it. Sometimes that does not work in your favor.
Yeah.
I am a huge James Bond fan since childhood. I have been unable to successfully pitch a James Bond story to my publisher that Dynamite has the Bond
Yeah.
license for comics right now.
Yeah.
And part of it is because I'm 60 and I am no longer interested in coming up with a cool plan to take over the world that Bond can
Mhm.
unflappably stop. I'm way more interested in other things about him.
Yeah,
than
yeah,
that Eon Productions absolutely is uninterested in exploring. And that's fine. I get that. It's their
yeah.
thing. Like literally the last thing I pitched to them, and we'll see if they maybe able to do it tonight, is called This Death Is Mine, and it's about James Bond's complicated feelings about suicide.
Interesting. Okay.
And they don't want that. And again, it is absolutely their right to say, dude, no.
Yeah.
We're not doing a Bond story that starts off with him committing suicide. Like
Right.
that's not like no, we're not a failed suicide attempt. But so two steps forward, one step back. When and not everything that someone brings you, and Betty Page and Elvira are kind of perfect. I did not spend my whole life dreaming about writing Elvira comics. It's not,
Right.
I love the character. I did not have a thought in my head about her. But engaging with her, now I have plenty of thoughts in my
Yeah.
head about Elvira. So that's sort of the big, I talk a little bit I'm writing this instructional thing about how to make comic books. And this is imprecise language, but it's what I use internally, which is you have plot, which is this happens, this happens, this happens. And then you have story, which is why am I telling you all this?
Right.
What is the story? You know, Blade Runner the plot is about a guy that's hired to hunt androids. The story is about a cold-blooded human being who is taught the meaning of human existence by a couple of robots. That's the
Mm.
story. That's why, by the way, the fan theory that he's a robot is worthless. Because it becomes it's a robot learning about humanity from robots. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not an actual story. That's not a story anyone's worth telling. A cold-hearted man learning about love from robots, that's a great story.
Story. Yep.
So, and the interesting thing about plot and story is you don't always know.
Mhm.
Sometimes you go, well, like, yeah, here's some cool ideas for scenes, and this is going to work, and that'll be a good story, and that'll be exciting, that'll be a good plot. But you don't know why. What am I getting at with this? What is it saying? What is it expressing about the human experience? And the thing is, the most popcorn thing in the world also does that.
Hmm.
Always. Star Wars has shit to say about the human experience. Profound. And the thing that you can never know
Hmm.
is your thing, your action adventure thing, your sci-fi thing, your horror thing might be the thing that unlocks something for someone
Mm.
about their own life and experience. At the time that The Empire Strikes Back came out, and that's why I use them as an example, my father was going through the worst time in his life. He was ill, he was depressed, he had suffered a huge career setback. And for me, The Empire Strikes Back is about learning that your father is a human being
Mhm.
and he can fail and he can
Sure.
fall and he can be mad about things. And like I grew up idolizing him. And in the late 70s, I saw him as a different person and I saw him fail and I saw him sick and I saw him angry and bitter.
Hmm.
And in the fullness of time, my feelings about my father are not diminished. But The Empire Strikes Back is about learning that your father isn't some untouchable
Yeah. Yeah.
hero. And Return of the Jedi is about forgiving him
Yeah.
for being human. The job of a writer is to ask yourself at every turn in the corner, what do I have to say about this that's different from what everyone else in the world has to say about this?